All right, welcome back, you guys. Today we are entering into Unit 3, the rock types. We've already talked about plate tectonics and the way the Earth moves. So today we're going to be talking about rock types and explaining how the rock cycle impacts the lithosphere. So don't forget to go ahead and download your pages to your interactive notebook. This lesson will help you with that notebook, so go ahead and get those pages out, and we will begin. First, we're going to talk about the lithosphere. The lithosphere is the ridged outermost layer of the Earth's crust and solid mantle, so it's the upper mantle portion. There are three rock types that we're going to focus on: the igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. And there's some descriptions right here about each of those, but we're going to go into it in more detail on these next few slides. The first one we're going to talk about is the igneous rock. And an example of the igneous rock is granite. And that's the granite that you find in your countertops in most kitchens this day and time. Granite is an igneous rock. It's formed from the magma, the slushy mix of molten rock, gases, and mineral crystals below Earth's surface. The igneous rocks are formed from the crystallization of magma, and that just means that the magma cools down and then hardens. So if you remember, lava is magma that flows above the Earth's surface. So it's magma when it's below the Earth's surface, but when it comes above, it turns to lava, and it's called lava. The igneous rock is formed when that magma crystallizes. So there are two types of igneous rock, and that's extrusive and intrusive. So the EX is for when you want to think of EX, you want to think of the outer or on top of Earth's surface. And when you're thinking about the IN, the N is in Earth's surface. So the extrusive is the fine-grained igneous rock that cools quickly on Earth's surface. So it's on top of Earth's surface and it cools quickly. Where the intrusive is the coarse-grained igneous rock that cools slowly below Earth's surface. So if you look at that diagram below in this picture here, you'll see that this one is very smooth. This happens on Earth's surface. You can see that it's smooth here. Intrusive has these little pits and holes in it. This one happens inside the Earth's surface. So when magma cools, it crystallizes, and that's how you get your igneous rock. If it cools too quickly on the Earth's surface, there's not enough time for crystals to form. That's when you get your extrusive, and that makes it a lot smoother. If it cools slowly beneath Earth's surface, there is sufficient time for large crystals to form, and that's where you get your intrusive. And that's an example of that is your granite. The granite is an example of the intrusive. So how do we use igneous rock? We use it as building materials because it's very strong and resistant to weather. Some examples are granite, and we already talked about how granite is very durable, and you see it a lot in people's kitchens. You have ore deposits that are found within igneous rocks: gold, silver, lead, copper. They're all found in igneous rock, and you also have diamonds that are found in igneous rock. So all of these are very strong and durable. Gold, silver, lead, copper, and diamonds, all very strong and durable, and you find those in this igneous rock. All right, the next rock type we're going to talk about is sedimentary rock. So much of the Earth's surface is covered with sediments, pieces of soil material deposited on Earth's surface by wind, water, ice, gravity, or chemical precipitation. Sediments are formed through weathering, and weathering is just the breaking down of rocks. When sediments become cemented together or smashed together or put together, they form sediment rocks, and they form in layers. So both of these are a picture of those layers that are formed, and this one you can see the ridges of those layers. So sedimentary rock happens in 5 steps. The first one is weathering. Weathering is any process that breaks down rocks into smaller pieces. So this is called a sediment, the breaking down of rocks into something smaller pieces called sediment. Erosion is the process of removing the sediment. It is being moved by wind, water, gravity, or anything like that that can move the sediment. Then the deposit or disposition is the dropping of sediments. So it's the dropping of the sediment rocks. The compaction is the squeezing layers of sediments together. So it's the squeezing of the sediments together, compact squeezing. And then the sedimentation is when dissolving materials seep into the tiny spaces between the sediment, cementing them into a solid rock. So it is putting them together into a solid rock, cementing them together into a solid rock. You have your weathering, as the breaking down into smaller pieces. The erosion is that's the process of moving them. The deposit is the dropping, the compact is the squeezing, and the sediment is cementing them together into a solid rock. So some primary features of sedimentary rock. So they have the horizontal layering called beading. And the graded beading is when the coarser, heavier particles are on the bottom layer, as you can see in this picture. The cross beading is when the inclined layers of sediments move forward across horizontal surfaces. And a really important thing to remember is fossils. So fossils are the best known feature of sediment rock. So remember that the only place you will find a fossil is in sedimentary rock. So this is the only place that fossils are actually formed. Now we're going to talk about clastic, is one type of sedimentary rock. This is the rocks that break down under the force of nature, wind and water, and it's made of pieces of other rocks. Some examples of that is gravel, sand, and clay. So clastic examples are gravel, sand, and clay, and it's when rocks break down under the forces of nature, wind and water, into smaller pieces. The next one we're going to talk about is a chemical sedimentary rock. It's when water dissolves the minerals they come out of a solution that's called precipitate. So it's when water dissolves minerals and they come out of a solution that is called precipitate. The minerals crystallize and grow together to make the rock. So chemical sedimentary rocks will look like crystals. And these are some pictures of those crystals. The third one is bioclastic sedimentary rock. Since we know that bio means life, this one is made of things that were once living. So these ones are made of things that were once living, like plant minerals and shells. And these are some pictures of that. So what do we use sedimentary rock for? We use it for oils, natural gas, coal, uranium that fuels our power plants, limestones that we use for cement, phosphate, fertilizer, and iron and steel. The last rock type we're going to talk about is metamorphic rock. It's when high temperature and pressure combine to alter the texture of a rock. So the rock is being pushed down to the Earth's surface and it's getting hotter and hotter. But it's changing the shape, but the rock is not actually melting. So during metamorphosis, a rock changes from changing form while remaining solid. So it's staying in the same shape, it's solid, but it's changing the actual form. And this is due to the temperature from the earth and the pressure that comes from either overlaying rock or the compression forces during mounting building. There are two types of metamorphic rock, foiled and non-foiled. Foiled one is, like in this picture, is the wavy layers. You can notice foil rocks by the waves in the bands of the rocks. And then the non-foils, they lack minimal grains with long axes in one direction. So that pretty much sums up our lesson today on rock types. Go ahead and use this time to fill out your interactive notebook. And if you have any questions, please let me know.